into our region. We've got to also take into account that red tape, particularly related to cumbersome supply chain management policies as well, that can also hinder an impact on businesses. In terms of projects, we've got acts such as 70 of 70, rezoning of agricultural land into commercial land, which in some instances really can take up to years before some form of a decision is taken in respect of that. We've seen an improvement in as far as the EIA turnaround time is concerned, but it can be enhanced a bit more. Other policies such as the Water Use License Act has also continued to impact quite negatively in terms of the timelines that it takes before such a legislation is approved. We've also, obviously, we've got, once you've adhered to all those, then you can apply for SPLUMA. Again, you know, more timelines, more regulations, and we need to form some form of a level of synchronization of these types of policies in order to encourage speedier resolution. We've seen in the last 2 weeks or the last 3 weeks, really, since the lockdown, how technology has improved our systems and how we've had to now rely heavily on technology. Should we now not also look at technology in terms of e-government solutions? We've seen e-learning platforms. Certainly my children I've seen home the utilization of e-platforms in order to educate our children, electronic meeting platforms that we've been utilizing, and we also need to look at intelligent transport and leading towards smart cities. So these are key areas that we've got to look at. But there's one sector in the economy that we cannot forget, that is the informal sector. That informal sector, we need to also have a discussion around how we integrate that informal sector into the mainstream so that the informal sector becomes a formalized informal sector. We need to look at that from a cohesive perspective and also from a red tape perspective. So most of these recommendations really will seek to alleviate problems that are experienced by the private sector as well as the informal sector. We need to see how we shorten the time frames administratively without sacrificing quality, and ensure that business approvals, permits, licensing are really moved up the chain of command in a fairly rigid and a quick process, so that we can have a quick decision as well as quick turnaround from which would then assist us to ensure that there's proper and adequate turnaround in terms of assisting our companies and realizing our investment projects. So our MEC has really given us this directive to look at these specific opportunities so that we are able to guide the process, and at the end of it all, we need to then come up with a policy directive or some form of a structure that will assist us in ensuring that we can move as quickly as possible. Now, when you think in red tape, you think it's specifically project implementation in a sustainable way, in a way in which we would generate income for our economy as well as the creation of jobs. So in essence, that in summary is an introduction on the brainchild of our MEC in terms of achieving our deliverables in terms of this red tape platform, and how do we ensure that we convert the red tape to green tape, because the reality is we do need the tape, but we just have to ensure that that tape is converted from red to green. I do see our Honorable MEC has joined us, Freaky, and I'm sure you will do the necessary introductions for our Honorable MEC. Freaky, that's in essence the broad perspective and the purpose of our session this afternoon. Thank you, Freaky.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Neville. Very kind of you. And MEC, good afternoon, shall I say almost good evening. I can see it's already been a long day for you, starting early with these webinars. And this is just one of a series of them. But we really appreciate the effort that you're putting in to provide leadership and guiding our province, and for that matter, our country, through this very difficult time. We really appreciate that. To all of the participants to this webinar, I'm sure MEC Dubengube needs absolutely no introduction as our MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, and obviously tasked then with the huge responsibility to keep our economy alive in this difficult time, more particularly so, as we'll also discuss in more detail at the moment, or just hereafter, how to get it back on, as Neville has indicated also quite clearly to us. The program that we've structured is one that we would want to hand over to MEC, I think just first for MEC to give us her perspectives. So far, I must confess that I've not had time to talk to MEC directly about the task that she's given us as the conveners of this Redtape reduction work stream. But some of you may not know, others may know that I've had the privilege of working very closely with MEC over many years. And I think I've got a reasonable good idea of what she's expecting from us. And Neville, as you said, converting red tape to green tape may have an environmental connotation with environmental affairs. So let's rather say we want to replace red tape with a red carpet to ensure that we open up our province for business in the shorter space of time. I think just with that, MEC, can we ask you just for your guidance and how you see us moving forward? And then we'll take it on from there, and we'll move then into the discussion document that I committed to last night, and we put something together just to get pen on paper so we can have something that we can get our teeth into, and we'll take discussions from there and introduce also the other members of the panel, I think, after you've given us your introductory words. MEC, I think over to you with that.
Thank you very much, Frikkie, and to all the panel members and all the members that are joining us from everywhere else where they might be. I know that there are MECs, there are members of parliament, members of the legislatures that are joining us, members from the business sector, various members of from organized business, organized labor, civil society. They are all sectors of our communities that are joining us, entrepreneurs that are also here. Basically, Frikkie, as you indicated, that as part of the work that we've been tasked with, of really having a long shot of looking post lockdown period, looking at post COVID crisis, to say how do we ensure that post the lockdown there is a recovery plan for the KZN economy. And when we are to talk about the recovering of the economy, if we are to open our businesses, let's say on Monday, how to ensure that those doors of our businesses open on Monday? And the first thing that comes in mind is a typical example that you get, that a decision gets taken that a certain sector of the economy will start working from tomorrow. And when those sectors of the economy start to operate, when they open their doors, they will be asked a certificate. After the certificate and after the application, they will need another application. And after the application, they will be asked for another application and all sorts of red tape. And that then says, if we are to recover the economy with the speed that it needs for us to recover the economy, what are those basic things without breaking any laws, but taking into cognizance that the economy has been really badly affected by this period, because even before the COVID began to hit us, we were already in recession. We were already having our economy already down and out. And if we are then to recover, we know that some sectors of the economy that really need to be ignited are the sectors of informal economy, but also there are other sectors within the industry of the economy that need to be ignited, such as the localization of our economy. And there are sectors of those industries within our provinces that are very strong, with very strong brand, that needs a support of all of us. But what will it take for all of us to ensure that, an example, if we were to make a Toyota our car of choice, so that we can create more jobs, we can sustain that industry, we all ensure that we sing in one hymn book. If we were to make, ensure that when you want to apply for a business license, you don't get referred to 10 types of legislation, and those 10 types of legislation, they are all not even in one document. You'll find them in 10 types of regulations and 10 types of books that you must go and find. And worse, because you don't even have the internet connectivity. And as we talk now, there are a lot of government interventions that have been mentioned by the president, but are people able to even access those applications? We were talking last week about people needing to apply for the UIF. The Department of Labor is closed. Why? Because there's too much influx of people that are coming to make applications. Why do we not have enough capacity? Because we know that we are going to have influx. Again, red tape. Why are we not ensuring that our systems are able to respond at all time? And the way they respond is the way that they must put the people first, is the way that they must put themselves. We must put ourselves in the shoes of those people that we are serving. Then, act as if we are doing people favor when we are to deal with the challenges, or when we are to deal with the issues that our people are raising. And the other challenge that we have been experiencing a lot is that we have choices sometimes in government, that the choices that we have sometimes are not the choices that the communities want to see, or the choices that are favorable to the communities. How do we make sure that the choices that we make, or the choices that we are putting on the table, are the choices that talk directly to the plight of the communities that we are serving? And throughout the day and throughout yesterday, Mr. Brooks, we've been talking about people coming to our offices with brilliant ideas, putting those ideas on the table. And with me on the other side of the table, I don't even have an idea of what that document means. And as a result, I see a document that is written in a language that I don't understand, and I turn around and I say, this document is unbankable, or it needs this and that, and people are back and forward. That's the red tape that our communities have got to be subjected to on the daily basis. But here we are talking about, there is an economy that needs to start working come day one after the lockdown has been opened. How do we get the economy open? Last week, we were told that certain industries must start working. Industries such as the one that's dealing with computers, ICT, industries that's dealing with stationery, industries that's dealing with repairs, and a number of other industries that were supposed to be starting operating. When we were doing research, and I asked my colleagues in my department, please can you do a research, how many of those industries have started working? Almost 90% of the industries that were supposed to have started working for the past two weeks, they've not started working. Why? It's because they were not prepared for them to start working. Why have they not prepared? It's because for them to start working, they must have face masks, they must observe a distance, social distance, they must have this, they must have this, they must have this, they must have that. And all these things that must be made or must be planned for, there is no machinery in place for us to ensure that whatever decisions that we make, whatever plans that we make, the systems are seamless and there is clear communication and clear interpretation of the decisions that are made at all times. And for the economy to be able to respond, it needs agile, it needs the kind of the leadership that is visionary enough to be able to take decisions now, because otherwise people will go and invest in the neighboring countries. We've seen that at Isithebe, how many industries have left Isithebe and they've gone to the neighboring countries because of the red tape. So those are some of the issues. I'm not going to talk to you about the SPLUMA and the NEMA and the EIAs and everything else. You know, all those issues. You are all experts. I'm not an expert in all these things, but it's some things that we experience on the daily basis, the kind of frustrations that people talk to us about on the daily basis, the access to funding, the kind of the hostility that we experience within the systems when you are to approach our systems. So that's the type of discussion, but also the solutions, Mr. Brooks. I'm not the one who likes papers. You know me. I hate documents. I hate the writing of those thick documents. We want solutions. We don't want to lament. We don't want to write another thesis. We want solutions. Come day one, what do we do tomorrow? How do we ensure that our economy start functioning come day one, come next week? How do we revive the KZN economy? Thanks. So we welcome everybody that's here and all those who have not logged in as well. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you, MEC. If before you, Mr. Brooks comes in, if I can just introduce Mr. Teboho Maruping, the Commissioner for UIF. MEC, you had requested for his participation in our session. He has joined us.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, sir.
Well, shall we go?
Thank you, MEC. I'm here. I was on mute.
Thank you. The team is growing. MEC, thank you very much for your comments and remarks there. I've been taking notes. So if I look to my side or look as I'm busy with my phone, purely just because I'm taking my notes on that. And I must say that, MEC, from your comments so far, there are going to have to be some adjustments to the document that I will be presenting in a moment on that, because I think you're highlighting for us issues like, number one, the informal sector. I think our document at the moment is too light on the informal sector. Neville also emphasized that quite strongly, and we do agree that needs to be supported equally, that there's a lot of red tape in getting the informal sector operating within the law and getting them properly established. I know that Edtea has done a lot of work on that, so there's a lot of information available that we can certainly draw on to see how that assistance could be given. I think the other point that MEC raises, which is not fully covered, I think, in the discussion document we're going to discuss, would be issues of how do we deal with the immediate state now, where certain industries can get back online. They have to get back online, however, in a phased and incremental approach. I've had an approach over the weekend from a big development here in our province. In terms of their interpretation, they should be able to, from Friday, start to come back online again, should they meet certain requirements. And then the question is, but where do we get actually authorization to move and to get back into in its particular construction project itself? And we found it difficult because everybody at this stage is interpreting themselves the guidelines and the regulations that are being promulgated in terms of the Disaster Management Act itself. So we're going to find problems if we just leave that open to interpretation. People are looking for, and developers are looking, project owners are looking for a central point where they could knock on a door and say, look, this is what we intend to do. This is our program of getting back into action again. These are the mitigating factors or arrangements we're putting in place to ensure that we keep our workforce safe. But they want to bounce it off somewhere to know that they've got the comfort of moving ahead. And I think that's an issue that we've not yet covered in the discussion document as we move on. But I think, Neville, MEC, before we go on to the discussion document, we've now heard that Tebogo has joined us. We also have Ndumiso Mlambo from Trade and Investment KZN, person responsible for the one-stop shop as part of the team. Ndumiso, welcome to you as well. And then Thulani Bengu, also a really long-term colleague of mine. Kokta Days, Thulani at the moment is the head of the Housing Development Agency in the province, has been working in the regulatory environment for a very long period of time, very knowledgeable of development approvals and what is required to get a project up and running, and understands the full, shall I call it, value chain or regulatory chain in any development. I've noted here just on the comments that Thulani is having a bit of problem with these audio settings or getting audio. Thulani, I don't know, can we test if you unmute quickly? Are you on? We still can't hear you. We can see you speak, but we can't hear you at this side. I wonder if we can ask the technical team, maybe just on the on the notes on the side, to help provide Thulani just with some support, because we really want to hear you and what you've got to say also on this particular topic. While we're trying to sort you out, can I just go back to Ndumiso? Can we hear you, Ndumiso?
Good afternoon, good evening, Freaky, and good evening to the MEC and to the colleagues and everyone else.
Thank you, Ndumiso. So we've got you online.
Thank you.
Neville, is that it? Thulani, are you going to mind if we start with the document? I hope you've received the copy that I did send out, and we would love to hear your comments and views also on that. So we really hope we get your audio problem resolved quite quickly. Neville, you as the overall webinar facilitator, are you comfortable for me to go on to share screen and to bring up the document and just quickly to take all participants to the webinar just through where we are in terms of thinking of what we see this process or how we see it unfolding as we move forward?
Yes, Freaky, I think we can do that, but if we could please perhaps request Tebogo to come in. I know he's pressed, he's got other interviews, you know, he's in high demand because UIF has been spoken about quite often. So I think if he can just take us through some of the principles for UIF, and I'm sure that there's been a lot of questions from a UIF perspective that perhaps Tebogo can most certainly take us through. That's what I would recommend, Freaky, and then once he's done, then we can then go straight into the document.
No problem, Neville. Tebogo, we all agree that the UIF issue is really a critical lifeline for many households at the moment. So let's go to you first, and you share with us exactly what the latest situation is and what guidance you can provide to whoever's listening in and participating in the webinar at the moment. Over to you.
Thank you, Frankie and Neville and colleagues. Is MEC still around? Thank you, MEC, for the invitation. I'll shoot straight to the point. I've sent a frequently asked questions to the colleagues. I hope it was sent to everyone. Do I get a note as a confirmation?
Tebogo, no, we haven't seen those questions, but please continue along the line, and we can maybe just circulate it later.
All right.
We can publish it as part of the webinar documents.
Yes. Now let me. I'm going to be nice and short. As UIF, or as the Department of Employment and Labor, we set up the COVID TERS as an intervention mainly for the lockdown. But COVID TERS is just one of the interventions that we have within the scope of our interventions. Everything that you do as the UIF stems from Section 5D of the UIF as amended, which says UIF will fund the re-entry and the retention of contributors into employment. Now, mark the two keywords. UIF will fund re-entry, will fund retention of contributors into employment. And in any other schemes that we deem necessary, that will see to it that people, that we make sure that people re-enter the labor market, or we keep them into the labor market. So whatever interventions that we come up with are directed at funding either re-entry or the retention to the labor market. So with COVID-19, we introduced a scheme. This was a new scheme that we didn't have previously in our offering. We introduced this scheme in the main because we are aware that the situation that the country faces is put pressure on the employer, it put pressure on the employee. And it's neither of the two is doing that we're in the position that we're in. It's not the employer that put us in this position, nor is the employee. So we introduced this solution. With this solution, it helps the employer and the employee in a sense that during this period, UIF will pay a fraction of the salary that the employer would have paid for the lockdown period. We pay between 38% and 60% of the salary. And the maximum calculation comes down to 17,712. So the most that a person will get from UIF is 6.7, and the minimum that a person will get is 3.5. So if we calculate your benefit and it comes down to 1,200, we'll lift you up to 3.5. If we calculate it and it comes down to 3,200, we add the 300 rands on top. So a person will never get anything lower than 3.5, but a person will not get anything more than 6,700 rands. So that's the range that we're working with, that people will not get anything less than 3.5, they will not get anything more than 6.7. But in that calculation, you may find that an employer says, I have an employee who earns 10,000 rands. I'm able to give this employee 5,000 rands. So UIF will only give 5,000 rands, even though the calculation, no, if the salary is 10,000 rands, if the salary is 10,000 rands and the calculation comes down to 3.4, and the employer says, I'll give this person 5,000 rands, who will give the 3.4 that the employee would have obtained as a benefit? The employer will give the 5,000 rands. The employee will be able to take home 8,400 rands at the end of the month. In an instance where, for example, the calculation comes to let's say 3.2, and the employer was giving the employee 7,000 rands already, but the salary of the employee is 10,000 rands, you will realize that now this employee will get 200 rands more. So as UIF will not pay you 3.2, will pay you 3,000 rands. Because the trick here is you should not get more than what you would ordinarily get a month as a salary. So your salary becomes a cap in whatever you get. If the employer tops it up, you will not get more than your salary. And when UIF adds money, it will never amount to more than your salary. And we are trusting that employers will not be unscrupulous, where you find they apply first for the UIF benefit and we pay you 5.5, and then they would have topped it up by 6,000 rands. but now they topped up by 4.5. So it's a working together sort of a relationship where we're saying, employers, be honest with us and contribute the little that you can contribute. UIF will give you a certain amount, top it up. If it means you top it up to a point where the employee get their monthly salary, let it be so. That's one area. And this benefit is only available for the lockdown period only. If the lockdown period extends for another month, the benefit will be available for the what's that now? The companies that have been specified that during this period they are not functioning. The industry, I was looking for the word industry. My vocabulary is leaving me now. The industries that are specified that they cannot function during the phase 4 of the lockdown. Those industries can apply for UIF for whatever period that the president will determine. If it's for a month, they can apply for a month. If it's 21 days, whatever the period that the president will determine, will make it available. What is key here also when we apply is people who have an employer-employee relationship and where the employee works for you for 24 hours per month and more. Those are the people who qualify to apply. We've had a situation where companies have never registered before. It's a bit of a problem because UIF is an insurance. We expect people who are going to apply to have had this insurance running for a couple of years or months. But the companies that have never registered, they've never declared their employees. Now, if a situation like that arises, we expect the company to own up and say, UIF, I have not registered, I have not declared, I know I owe you so much. I'm hereby declaring that I owe UIF 5,000 rands, and I'm going to pay this 5,000 rands for the next 6 months, and this is my payment method, and we sign an agreement of what they're going to pay. We'll then honor our agreement, will then honor our requirements to pay the employees, because the burden of honoring the agreement, of honoring the law, lies with the employer. And we've taken the decision that we're not going to sacrifice the employees at the expense of an employer who is not honoring the law. So we'll take the employer to task. Frankie, I think all of us must run out now. I saw you coughing. Yeah, that's the key element. And then for people to apply, we've created an online portal where a company can go online. You just go to the Department of Employment and Labor, you select the online portal, and then the online portal, then you select COVID-19 tests. The process is straightforward. You complete your details, and we've given a number of options there where you can apply as a bargaining council, where, for example, if KZN has a bargaining council that runs with the businesses in the KZN, they can register as a bargaining council and apply for all the employers in KZN. It's open, and we transfer the funds to the bargaining council. The bargaining council transfer money to the employers pays the employees. Or the employers themselves can apply on behalf of their employees. That's what we prefer, either the bargaining council or the employers. It will follow the same way. The employer applies, it goes through the process, they attach whatever relevant documentation that they need to apply. Once we've processed the payment, we transfer the money to the employer pays direct employees. As at that stage, within 24 hours, between 24 hours and 48 hours, we are paying. As I'm speaking to you now, we've already paid to the tune of 4.2 billion rands. That's how much money. Let me just get my facts straight. The potassium is mixed up now. We've paid over 4.1 billion rands already as I'm speaking to you today. That's how much we've paid since the 16th of April. 4.1 billion rands paid to employers. And KZN, I think, was the third in the number of companies that have applied for the COVID-19. It was Gauteng, followed by Western Cape, and then KZN. And previously, KZN was the second, and now KZN is sitting on third, which for me may signal that companies in KZN have not taken advantage of this benefit. And I think in this webinar, we need to encourage the employers to take advantage of this benefit. It's available for the employers, it's available for the employees. is also available to keep the relationship between the employee and the employer intact. Because with this benefit, the employer pays their salary and keep the relationship going, so that when the economy turns around, the relationship is still intact and the employees can come back to work. But the other thing that I thought I'll take advantage of as I'm closing, MEC and members of the group, is we have a number of labor activation programs running in the KZN area. And what has been my concern is we are running these programs, they are scattered across the province. And for me, I was concerned that we don't have a coordinated approach to these interventions that we have in the KZN province. We have a project with Mse-at, we have a project with Ilembe, we have a project with JL2, we have projects with a number of the Tibet colleges in the KZN area that are aimed at upskilling the people in the KZN area for different opportunities. Some of the opportunities we have with JL2 has even led to these beneficiaries supplying some of the hospitals with vegetables for during this period. And I think if we can find a way to have these KZN linked projects coordinated in a manner that ensures that the people that are trained in this space are plugged into employment, or we find a way, if possible, to redirect some of the projects such that they are responsive to the economic situation that we are facing now as a province. Let me stop there for now, and maybe I'll clarify other issues as I'm listening to questions. Thank you.
Tebogo, thanks very much for that, that snapshot, because I'm sure that you could keep us busy for a lot longer around that. But it certainly is comforting to know that there's a lot of work that's being put into it. And I'm really impressed to see also your turnaround time in what it is that you guys are doing. We got worried at one stage about the sort of volumes that came through and whether the technology was going to be able to cope with it. But it seems like you guys are doing well. MEC, I'm not sure whether you have any particular comments still for Tebogo before we release him. I see that he's got another commitment that he's got to go to. I think your microphone is still muted, MEC.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine,
You're
Mr.
fine.
Briggs. Thank you very much to Tebogo. Thank you very much for your time. I know that it was the last minute, but what we have requested to Tebogo that we would like him to come back for our next webinar of industry development, as well as the informal trading discussion.
All good. Well, thank you then. Thanks very much, Tebogo, and keep up the good work. I think the one issue just from my side, Neville, the information that Tebogo shared with us, I think is quite critical for all of us in the province and what we're trying to achieve. And he did say that it is available on their website. Do we have somewhere on the Trade and Investment KZN website a link? So if people want to get to that information via you, that we can also link it up with his UIF website?
Yes, we can do that. And I'll also link up with Tebogo because through the one-stop shop, we've been getting a lot of inquiries on UIF. Fortunately, we have the Department of Labor here, but we don't have UIF here. So it would be good for us to interact. So we'll engage with him. And as MEC has indicated, he'll also join us for the other two panels, which will be good for full knowledge sharing because we anticipate that those ones are going to be even more oversubscribed. So Tebogo, thank you very much.
Right, and I think then just the last thing from my side on this, I was also encouraged by Tebogo's comments about the skills development programs and the projects that they're running, which I think that somehow we need to link with the youth program in the province, in the Office of the Premier, also with the Academy and the work that the Academy is doing on coordination of skills development programs throughout the province, linking them with the various CETAs. I think there's a lot of synergy that can come out of this discussion going forward. So thank you very much for raising that.
Okay,
Right.
Thank you, colleagues. Does it mean I'm excused?
Tebogo, I don't know how to excuse someone on a webinar, but I don't want to just let you disappear, but thank you very much. It was good to see you and to have you online.
All right. Thank you.
Friki, Tebogo is just going to catch a flight quickly, so we've got to allow him to go.
Okay, so he's literally flying out of here.
On the phone.
On the phone.
Yeah.
No, that's all good. No, thank you. Thanks very much for that. All right, then Neville, can we then proceed on to the document? Just in terms of time, check with you quickly. It says 18:23 on my time. How much time do we allow for this going forward?
Friki, I would suggest that we do the presentation in 20 minutes if you can. And Steve, if you can please assist in sharing the presentation. Friki will then take us through. At the end, we'll then do a Q&A in terms of and feedback from each of the panel members in respect of the content of the document.
Sure. No, that's good, Neville. I really don't intend to take too much time on the presentation itself. And as we said, as a work stream, we've also not been able to actually get together. And if I say get together, let me rather say to Zoom together to go through the document. So apologies. This is not a refined document at this stage at all. This is the first draft that we've put on the table just to try and get us going. And I think that there's, in my view, a lot that we can learn from this and that we can take forward from here. So I'm not sure, can you see the document, the presentation on your screens? Neville, can you see it?
Yes, Friki, we can see it.
Dumiso, you can see it. All right. Well, let's just go through it very quickly. The outline of it, number one, is that we try to provide just some context and background to it. And there I'm really not going to spend a lot of time. I think MEC in her opening remarks have covered us quite well on this context and background. But just let me just maybe highlight or focus on the red wording in the presentation itself. And it is to say that as much as we understand the seriousness of the health risks with this situation that we are faced with at the moment, I think we all understand that equally we are experiencing economic risks, which can now quite easily compare with the health situation in the province, with people really not having food to eat, with us facing a great deal of public resistance to where we are going to at the moment. All right, I'm going to try and just get the presentation open up fully so we can run it in presentation mode. I hope that is better. We do it that way. So I just need to get the speakers out here so I can see the presentation myself. Right. The issue is that, as MEC indicated, that in some instances, the provincial economy has virtually come to a standstill. And even where there are new or existing businesses that are able to get back online again, they're not getting back online because of a lack of information and because of an uncoordinated approach to getting them back on or in production again. Now, our growth projections, MEC also indicated, were pretty poor before COVID-19. Now it's moved basically from disastrous to catastrophic, and we have no other option but to ensure that we attend to this as quickly as we can. What is of particular concern is that we may look at the economy, and as we measure the economy in terms of the conventional norms that we have around the GDP, per annual GDP, the total value of the economy. What worries us here is that there are a range of other factors that are not necessarily featuring in that measurement at the moment, and that is the progress that we've made since '94 with radical economic transformation and ensuring that we create a shared economy, that we create jobs, that we are able to bring Black economic empowerment to the forefront in our economy, that those are the factors of an economy that is in particular at high risk and where we're going to lose first participants in this economy, and we really can't afford to be taken back to the levels of pre-94, what that is concerned. So the issues of job losses, of rising unemployment, inequality, we can expect these indicators to move absolutely in the wrong direction at the moment. And our response has got to be very, very aware that that we cannot do that. We say, therefore, if not rapidly and decisively attended to, this situation has become or has the potential of drawing us into a downward spiral of which we're going to find it extremely difficult to get out of. As it is, it's going to be difficult, but we need to be very proactive in bringing it back online. And I think then what MEC has also pointed out to is the fact that we are here where we are because of extraordinary circumstances. And to get us out of here is definitely going to require extraordinary measures. So we cannot have, and I know that this has almost become a cliche, that this is definitely not business as usual, but this is far from business as usual, and it's going to require real innovative thinking. And I do think that we have that innovation with us in this province. There are a lot of positives that we can build on to actually help us get out of this. We need to support, stabilize, and where necessary, revive existing businesses' activities to become fully functional again as quickly as possible. We've already said that. We need to create a climate conducive for the expansion of existing businesses, and we've got to create an attractive environment for new businesses to enter. So differentiation here between getting existing businesses back online again, be that whether they are in the formal economy or in the informal economy, we've got to help them to get them back online quickly. And as I indicated right in my opening remarks, a lot of these businesses are hesitant at the moment because they are concerned that they may be transgressing any of the regulations that have been set as precautionary measures for them to come back online. And we're going to have a sort of a call center where people can phone in and say, this is the dilemma that I have. Can I do this? Would you advise me going ahead with this? And I know that that is a risk attached to it, providing people with that type of information, because we're going to have to be able to make pretty sure that we understand the rules of the game ourselves very clearly when we start giving that type of advice to people. The issue of creating a climate conducive for expansion of our existing businesses, I think the business retention strategy has always been a key anchor of our economic development strategy of the province. So we would love to get new businesses to come in, but we have to take care of the ones that we have, first of all, in the province. And MEC's reference to Toyota, just as an example of the motor industry, I think is quite appropriate. And we have, if you look at the brands that are based in KZN, we've got in the country, amongst the top 100 brands that there are in business, we got our fair share of the percentage of those top brands residing in our province, and we need to be ready to work with them to expand existing business. But then it's also about creating this environment that is attractive to bringing new business into our province, and we've got a lot of competitive and comparative advantages that we need to put forward. But it is all about the ease and the cost of doing business that has been an issue that we've had a problem with now for some time. And that's where we now are really going to have to get it right with this particular process. So it's for this reason then that under the leadership of MEC and our provincial executive, where we have a provincial COVID-19 economic recovery strategy being consulted on at the moment to prepare it. And this work stream that we are part of as the Redtape and regulatory unbundling work stream then reports or is part and parcel of the institutional arrangement for the strategy to take it forward. So I've also indicated that this work stream is only starting its work. I can see that it's going to be hectic going forward, and that we're going to have to get a lot of work done in a very short space of time. What we've identified so far, and what I've identified, maybe let me put that so not to commit other colleagues that have not had an opportunity to comment yet, is that we're going to have to attend to number one, I believe some of the supply chain management policies and procedures which we're having a problem with at the moment, which is a serious issue for delay. And as much as we are all supporting a clean or PFMA clean governance process, we're going to have to think very, very innovatively about supply chain management procedures we're going to put in place. And we're going to have to do it in such a manner that we don't open up opportunities for people to abuse the system. That's not what we're asking for. We want to see clean, responsible governance happening here. But there are a number of best practices that we can, I think, implement through supply chain management in making sure that we don't become totally bogged down in tender processes, in procurement processes, where we've got to get things procured and online in a very short space of time. We have raised the issues of subdivision of agricultural land, about environmental impact, about development approvals and SPLUMA, about road access, and a whole range of other statutory approvals. We're going to have to pull all of that together. I must say that in working with a number of colleagues in all of these fields, water use licenses, I haven't even listed on here, that we've got a lot of good cooperation from those authorities that understand the importance of us moving. I think the one issue we're going to have to take into consideration is the capacity of the authorities themselves to be able to deliver at the pace and at the intensity that we want it delivered. And therefore, there's got to have to be a filtering mechanism to ensure that our energy is channeled to where the biggest impact can be made. And we're going to have to, and I've got some ideas that I'll be sharing with the participants of this webinar, just on how we can manage that prioritization process going forward. I think in addition to the matters we raised just now, there are going to be a range of others because any development or whatever business is reliant on some form of infrastructure to support it. And we're going to have to bring in online the municipalities, I think, first of all, which becomes a bit of a problem. We've got to deal with 54 municipalities throughout the province. But we're going to have to establish very early on a network of engaging with municipalities so that we know who the relevant people are that can help us to assist whenever we do get to a stage where there's a blockage at municipal level. See, the core functions of this work stream must be focused on those critical areas, but also sometimes it's just purely an administrative blockage that happens, bad governance blockages that happen, and we're going to have to roll our sleeves up as this particular work stream to put measures in place where we could, and please pardon the analogy or the terminology, we're going to have to become the drain cleaners, because sometimes it's dirty work to get in there, but to ensure pipeline for considering projects remain open and that we can keep on moving. Let me quickly move just quickly to the objectives then and some of the other issues around the work stream. I think the objectives of this work stream would be to, as I put out under 221 here, to render facilitation support to government and private sector high impact projects experiencing implementation challenges and delays as a result of these administrative inefficiencies or regulatory processing delays. We've got to provide a platform where project owners, be they government or private sector, can come to for facilitation support, raise their concerns and issues, the challenges that they're experiencing. And at the end, I'm just going to flash quickly an Annexure A as a proposal that I'm putting forward as a document which would serve as an online registration document for people that need the support from this particular work stream in providing some sort of facilitation assistance. And then I believe that we're also going to have to advise appropriate structures of the provincial executive of projects requiring high level of intervention. I'm not suggesting that this work stream is going to be able to resolve all of it. There are going to be issues which will have to be escalated to an executive level. And I think with the MEC as our sort of project champion on here, that would be our first port of call, to go to her, not just to go to her with complaints or with problems, but for us to go to her with already workshop suggestions on how those particular issues can be attended to. The function of the work stream will therefore be, number one, we've got to have a system in place where we can register. And if I say catalytic projects here, we're not trying to take away the normal registration process of catalytic projects in the province. This is where we register projects that require facilitation support. We're going to have to then facilitate decisive and timely decision-making around the issues that those projects have with departments, agencies, and municipalities, intervene immediately. We're going to have to facilitate senior administrative support between government departments, formulating recommendations to the provincial executive, and then to provide also, at times, private sector and government. And we've seen many project owners not always too sure of how to proceed and what the next step is. And that level of support or advice should be available through this interactive work stream that we have to establish. And we think that with the technology that we're even applying in this webinar, that this facility is available quite readily for us to roll out the service throughout the province. The mandates of this and the authority of the work stream, it is important that this work stream is mandated or authorized by the provincial executive, as we have it at the moment from the MEC, so that if we do go to departments, we go to municipalities, we go to agencies, we do so with the proper authorization of the executive authority for the province, so that nobody can doubt the fact that this is a body with muscle. And I'm saying that, and I'm using it very advisingly, not necessarily with teeth, but with muscle, so that we can move in there and really get our colleagues dealing with these regulatory and administrative processes to adhere to the requests that we would be putting forward to him. I would like to link up here just very quickly with a comment that Neville made earlier. We don't see ourselves in approaching this in a rogue or cowboy-like manner. We're not suggesting that any of the regulatory processes or requirements be bypassed. I would certainly never suggest that we bypass an environmental impact assessment, or at least a requirement to take into account the sustainability of the project from whatever angle. That is absolutely critical that we do things responsibly, but we do believe that we can do it responsibly probably in half or a quarter of the time that we are currently doing. And that is what we're going to push for, is to have these things much more effectively and efficiently, time-wise, resolved and getting them back online. In events where the work stream doesn't have any result or expected outcomes, we would then have no hesitation of escalating it to the MEC, so that we can take this matter up at a next level at the executive level to try and get them attended to. The membership of this team, in very short, it will be the conveners, as is done in this stage. States-Ronnie and I have been appointed by the MEC to, at this stage, to guide and to convene and put together the document and the put together the conceptual framework for this to get it going. From there, it is really MEC's prerogative as how she wants to see it. We see the work stream being represented by at least the provincial treasury. We will not be able to move with issues on supply chain management and procurement policies if we don't have provincial treasury on board. Economic development, tourism, and environmental affairs on issues of business, regulations, and the licensing of businesses, but also the whole environmental components, Pumulele Noele being one of the persons being assigned to support this action work group. cooperative governance, traditional affairs, in particular with the planning, the SPLUMA issues, but also our access to municipalities and the municipal networks. Agriculture, rural development, land reform, largely the Act 70 of 70, subdivision of agricultural land, Department of Transport, the transport impact assessments, and a whole range of other issues. But then we'll be able to bring in municipal representatives and representatives from other statutory bodies as and when required, depending on the nature of the project. I think the important thing here is we see the Secretariat and the hard yards being presented through Trade and Investment KZN. That's why Ndumiso is going to be a key person in this particular workshop as the person who's responsible with TIKZN for this one-stop shop facility that we have there. So we're also not trying to recreate the wheel. We have a very good wheel at the moment that maybe needs a bit of oil, and we're going to help oil that particular wheel to turn a lot faster. I'm not going to spend time on meeting procedures, but we've said that, look, we're going to start off meeting through the internet platforms that we have at the moment. We're going to get going with that even later this week. We want to get this document finalized. We would want to get a document to MEC and to the command structures dealing with the business recovery program itself, so that we know that we can get the mandate that this workstream needs to move forward. Let me then just very quickly flash through the Annexure A that we have here. This is an online, could easily be a web-based application process for registration of catalytic projects requiring facilitation of delays caused by slow regulatory approvals or administrative inefficiencies. In that particular case, a project owner would identify him or herself, a short description of what the project is all about, give us an address, give us contact details, tell us firstly also a little bit more about the project, just in terms of its intended outcomes. Does it really promote the 7 goals? And we're going to focus on the our national NTSF outcomes. For now, we've just got the 7 goals of the PGDP. And is it promoting inclusive economic growth and jobs? Is it really promoting human resource development, skills development, human and community development? So a project meeting, let's say, the majority or at least 4 of these goals would start to meet our requirements for a project with major impact in the province that we believe that would need and that would be gaining access to the facilitation services of this work group. We're also interested in the magnitude of the investment. We want to see just what the total investment is that is at stake in this particular project. We want to see what the upstream and downstream value chain opportunities are of the project. And this is all very short, clicking on a box and just giving us a line or two so that we've got something to go on, and we'll ask for more information if we need further. We want to see the extent of employment creation. We want to see meaningful Black economic empowerment in the process. And then we want to see, where is this project in the project cycle? Is it still at conceptual stage? Planning, construction commenced at what date, at what time? What is the timelines that we are faced with in this particular project? And then just lastly, something about the nature of the delays, a short description of the nature of the delay that a project owner has at the moment. What is the nature of the facilitation services the project owner believes that they require? And then give a quick explanation of what back the delay is from your point of view. This will enable us that if we receive, let's say, 1,000 of these applications, and I'm really just using that as a hypothetical number, businesses that require assistance from this work stream, that we'll be able to assess on a priority basis which ones of the projects we're going to tend to first, where the biggest impact is going to be, and where we could make the biggest difference in taking the process forward. Please bear in mind the comments that I made earlier, that some of the adjustments that I would want to see and would work on myself and bringing in here is by focusing a little bit more on support to the informal sector and how we want to help them to get them back online quickly, where they are bogged down by regulatory delays or red tape processes. And then the other part of it that I think we need a bit more engagement, but I would love to have a bit more engagement with MEC before, to understand the environment myself a little better, as to make recommendations on a central point of contact for businesses that are getting back online and that want to check their levels of compliance with the regulatory framework before they actually kick off and before they get into trouble for not complying with the disaster management regulations as we go. I think that is it from my side, Neville, and I may have taken a bit of time, but thank you very much for that. And I think we can then remove the document for now, and let's get back online.
Thank you very much, Friki, for that comprehensive presentation, really, which seeks to address a number of key areas that we had spoken about in our preamble as we started this session. Most importantly is also addressing key areas of particularly infrastructure projects that need to be up in the value chain in order for these projects then to create jobs in our province. One area that you spoke about is in the opening of the economy. How is that going to be done? The sensitivities and, of course, the nervousness by most of our companies who would want to ensure that there's an element of compliance in terms of that process. Just to indicate that through the leadership of our MEC, we've put together just a brief guide ourselves together with the legal team from Edtea, just to assist companies in ensuring that they can tick a box in terms of ensuring that they meet some of the regulations in terms of preparedness before they open their businesses, post-COVID. So that's just one of the other key deliverables that came also through the guidance of our MEC. Most importantly also are the two critical areas. We can talk a lot about the private sector projects, but we also need to look at government-driven projects, because some of them may hinder development because of non-delivery of those projects. It could be a power plant, it could be a sewage processing facility, etc. Just the non-delivery of that could really impact heavily on a project. We know of some, particularly in the northern works, that was supposed to have been delivered, but there's still delays in respect of that. It could be the delivery of a road leading to a specific area where without that road, you can't have development. So despite the fact that from a planning perspective, all that has been articulated and it's clearly indicated in the IDP as well as any other project. One of the other areas could be water, for example, access to water. We have seen, and MEC has been quite involved in directing some of the challenges that we've seen in Utegela, particularly with access to water, which really can hinder also the attraction of investments into that area. And most importantly, the term that you used, Friki, the retention of businesses. You're correct that the studies show that it's easier to retain what you have than to recruit new. New investments, it takes anywhere from 3 years and above. Odd exceptions that can happen in a year, but on average, the time frame for an investment is at least 3 years. And the retention, you're just merely pushing your energies towards the retention of your existing businesses. But when the businesses want to expand their operation, we've got to ensure that the regulatory environment is such that it can allow our businesses to expand sufficiently and easily. And then regulatory delays, and also because I'm on leave today and my colleague is taking over, when my colleague takes over for the month or two that I'm on leave, then my colleague comes up with new requirements and new, he wants to see something new from the application. We've got to have standardization in terms of what is required within some of our compliance regulations, rather than it being based on each person's knowledge and understanding of what the regulations are saying. I think that's just in essence from what I've picked up, and I'm sure we can then open it up to some of the panel members to then respond to it, Friki, if you're happy with that. You're on mute, Friki.
Yes, there we go. Thank you. I keep on forgetting that. Sorry. No, absolutely, Neville. Thanks for those comments coming in. And I'm also noting some of the questions that are coming through. We'll take note of that and we'll respond to them. I've already started to respond to some of them just in writing to them on the screen. But for now, can we see Thulani? Are you with us? Are you audible? Will we be able to get you online? Thulani? It doesn't seem like it. I think Thulani, as my co-convener on it, I see Thulani has written something to us. Yeah, he still has got a problem, unfortunately, not going to be able to participate verbally on it, but I know that he's fully on board with the process. I also had a telephone discussion with him yesterday, and if he still comes online, we can maybe take it later. Ndumiso, one of the questions here has been, does this replace the one-stop shop? And my response immediately was absolutely not. This is to augment the work of the one-stop shop. I know that your appointment, and Neville was also quick to point out to me that how pleased he was with your appointment with Trade and Investment KZN, with specifically responsibility to run the one-stop shop. So maybe your perspective from your side, how you see the relationship between this work stream and the one-stop shop in TIKZN.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity, Frankie. Firstly, I think somehow the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic has sort of forced us to get used to IT solutions. And one of the things that within the one-stop shop that we were already working on, which I think will dovetail very well with what we're discussing at the moment, is the online registration of catalytic projects, because that it gives us a tool to monitor projects. So if we're saying, for example, an EIA must be done within 6 months, as an example, the tool will actually help us to track the projects, to be able to say what is sort of constraining this application to move, and be able to follow up with the relevant unit or relevant department. And so therefore, in a way, what is being proposed here dovetail very well with the process that we already have set in motion. So what the form that you have shown us here, we were sort of in a step of putting it into an IT solution, a work-based solution. So therefore, we can combine that process with the process that is currently underway in terms of creating an IT solution. Perhaps it's a matter of then saying, how do we update it to have all the parameters that have been proposed in this tool that you have put through? That's the first one. The second aspect is that as we move into the lockdown, somehow, I'm not sure how we'll factor this into the process, that we look at the different phases. Because if the business, let's say, for example, the businesses are allowed to operate as 1st of June, as an example, there will be a first phase of a flood of businesses that are coming through to us. And therefore, in terms of assistance, we need to be able to say, how does our system that you're proposing respond to those floods of businesses that will be coming through with regulatory applications that they're asking us to help interpret regulations in one area. In another area, they will be asking us to then put them into contact with relevant government departments, funders, and so on. Currently, what we are experiencing within the one-stop shop, for your benefit or for the benefit of others, we've also established a business support desk, which actually assists companies to access the funds that are offered by ITC, funds that are offered by NEF, and so on. We've got quite a flood of inquiries that are coming through and people that are needing assistance that we link them to these funds, which we are greatly helping at this point in time. So I'm saying, as therefore we get into lockdown, post-lockdown, we need to therefore factor that in and see how our systems will be able to assist them as phase one. And then phase two, it will be where businesses will be needing on a continuous basis that we use in our IT solutions going forward, because I think now we've seen that we don't really need to wait for meetings to actually have things progressive. So we can rely on our IT solutions. So for now, I would say my comments are around on those for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ndumiso. I'm checking the questions as they come through. I see there were more questions about the relationship between this work stream and the one-stop shop. And I think just for everyone who is concerned about that, just to say that Neville, Ndumiso, myself, Tulani, and the whole support team are all into it, joined by the hip, so to speak, as we move forward. And we actually are so privileged as a province to have a structure under TIKZN like the one we have with Ndumiso there to assist us now. It's just going to require a little bit of tweaking and getting systems in place, as Ndumiso has indicated, which maybe brings me to a question that I see here from Tobekile and Glovo, who asks, we are currently working on a shopping center project that speaks directly to what you presented. Kindly advise us on how we can meet with you and how we can work together. Another question was, where can we access the form and the presentations? And Neville and Ndumiso, I'm going to have to look to you guys. Can we get this onto the Trade and Investment KZN website? Is it possible that on your website we can create a page for this particular work stream, so that whoever wants to engage with this work stream, I'm not sure what you guys, we have not had our preparation meeting yet, so we're testing this in the openness of this webinar. Neville, maybe just your comments on how we see that getting implemented going forward.
Yeah, 100%. I think in terms of where they can meet with us, we'll show the details at the end, but just in essence, you can send an email to ndumiso@tikzn.co.za, ndumiso@tikzn.co.za, and then we'll be able to respond. And then now with the technology, we'll be able to have that meeting fairly quickly together with Friki, our convener and co-convener, in order for us to move quickly in respect to that. In terms of the presentations, yes, we are currently uploading them. We had some technical glitches because everyone is using technology, so it became a little bit overwhelmed this afternoon, both on the TIKZN website and the website of the department, Edtea, kzn@edtea.gov.za. So that is where we'll be uploading the presentations, or on www.tikzn.co.za. So we're hoping that tomorrow by midday, everything will be uploaded, including the links for the rest of the other webinars.
And just to add there, Friki, that what also we intended to do as part of sort of an electronic library, that on the one-stop shop page within the TIKZN website, we'll have something like an electronic library where relevant documentation that are required by investors and developers would be easily accessible and people can be able to download them. So we'll have that once everything is up and running, we'll have that as also a tool that is available for people to access all documents that are required. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ndumiso. I think that we're going to learn as we go. Although I would like to suggest, and I'm sure that we all agree, it's going to be a very steep learning curve to get all of this in place as quickly as possible. But I'm again really sincere if I say, I think we're very fortunate and blessed that we have at least a firm structure like the one you're presenting for us to build on to take this forward. I've seen Tulani appearing on the screen. I think he's had some technical support on that side. Tulani, are you able to join us?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you.
All right. What I did, I moved to a cell phone. I decided to stop with this laptop thing. Those cell phones are more reliable lately. No, good afternoon, colleagues and the MSA office today. And yeah, on the inputs made, I think I managed to listen to Freaky's presentation where you were giving that based on the direction that where we will need to go, what needs to be done. And after the MSA also made comments. I think it's very clear, but I think the important point from my side is that as we approach it, it mustn't be like a problem-solving process, because I think some of you will know that with particularly with the government sector, when private sector people already have problems, chances are they've already encountered a challenge with some authority, be it a municipality and whoever. Then you don't want to use this structure as an alternative route. If you understand what I mean to say, okay, if I don't win with you, there is Tulani and Freak, I will go that way, then I'll still get things sorted. My suggestion along those lines is as follows, that we must also, I didn't see that part maybe Freak in your presentation, we must also be able upfront to pre-identify what we regard as development interventions of economic nature that need the attention of municipalities, so that prior to any engagement with any potential developer or whoever, they've already said upfront that this is the kind of development that we will need. I've also seen that where they've done that that process, it makes the assessment of applications a lot easier, because you find an application that conforms to what may have been pre-identified. So I will say that's one of the things that we'll need to be looking at. Secondly, I think it was Neville who made a point about complementary public sector investment, where we find that sometimes the challenge is not actually the actual development that is being proposed, but it's things that need to go with it. And I'm saying also we may need to refine our approach to be clear on that. I'm sure most of you will know about the challenges with wastewater works and the capacity of electricity and so on. To say if we push those things easier, by the time we talk economic development and investment, it becomes a lot easier when those that complementary infrastructure may have already been pre-identified. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting task, and we are up to it. We are ready.
Great, thanks. Thanks for that, Tulani. I think what I'm personally going to ask is, and I agree with you, that there are a whole range of issues that you want to build in, and where we can still expand on the document to provide for situations like you are referring to. And I'm sure we're going to discuss that also in more detail as the work stream itself, how we approach instances where there may be developers who have gotten stuck at any particular regulatory authority with a particular application. Not always you're going to find that the problem is on the authority side. Many times the problem is on the project owner side. But then I think it will also be up to us to engage with project owners. That's why it's included there, for them to understand what it is that is required. If you want to get your application dealt with speedily, these are the minimum requirements that you've got to adhere to. Without us being pedantic, I mean, the application on a blue paper, not on a red paper. I'm using that just sort of as a simple example of sometimes how things happen. So you want to be looking at material issues that will impact on the validity or the compliance of an application itself. I've also seen, Tulani, comments that are coming through. Will we as third parties be able to make comments and input to the discussion document? And again, I think Neville and Ndumiso, If you publish the presentation that we've put together, I've also given you the draft of the discussion document as it is at the moment with the Annexure A. I think that would be really a good suggestion for third parties to provide us with input from their side of what they believe it is that we should possibly build in to the document itself. I mean, MEC did say up front, we've got to be careful that we don't go to private sector or to communities with a mind that's made up of what it is that we think they require. Let them write exactly directly what it is that they want from us and how we can add value to their processes and how we can have a positive result, because there's only one outcome that we want to see of this. We want to see our economy getting back online as quickly as possible. We want to see a 5%, or at least in the shortest space of time, a 3% GDP growth rate with employment and real meaningful Black economic empowerment meeting the targets that we've set in our provincial growth and development strategy going forward. That's the end objective. And how we get there, I believe that there are a number of ways that we can get that done. So I think that's it from my side. For now, I'm not sure, Neville, maybe we should just take a round. I don't know whether MEC is still with us. I know that she's had other commitments also waiting, but if MEC is there, maybe a closing remark from MEC side. Otherwise, maybe Neville, a closing remark from your side, because I think it's time to stop talking and we need to get back to work.
Thank you, Frikkie. I think while we're waiting for MEC to come back online, just to indicate that you are quite correct that you know, it's time to get back to work, and that is really the bare minimum the MEC expects of us, to just get back to work and get the work done, so that we are able to then deliver on the products. I will just share some of the webinars that will be taking place also in the next few days. We'll also communicate in terms of the webinar links. If it can come up. Okay, yes. Okay, so as you can see, these are the webinars that will be taking place. We've already done all the webinars of the 28th. So tomorrow, there will be no webinars taking place, but all the webinars then will be starting again on the 30th with the tourism webinar. The tourism sector is quite an important sector that has been hard hit. So I'm sure that one will be quite interesting to look at. The trade and investment one, which will be taking place also on that day, including industry development and infrastructure development. So those are the 4 key webinars that will be taking place on Thursday, the 30th of April. And then on Friday, starting first thing in the morning with the informal sector. We're really dealing with the informal economy, so this is quite key. This will be an important one to look at, followed by agriculture, creative economy, as well as the clothing and textile sector. So these are the critical work streams that will be taking place. I just typed in as we were talking some of the context as they were being requested. You know, the website address for TIKZN, the one-stop shop number, which is operational 24 hours, because we've got a relationship now with one of the call centers that has assisted us to ensure that we keep the number going. And then those are the email addresses. I've listed 3 to Ndumiso from the one-stop shop, Mr. Sihleng Ngamu, who's our executive manager for investment promotion, who deals directly with the projects at TIKZN. And then, of course, from a department perspective, the acting DDG for industry development, Sfikiswa Pupuma, that is her email address. So those are the key contacts that I thought I should share with everyone. And then now, Frikkie will then just move over to our Honorable MEC to do the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Neville, and to all our panelists. Indeed, it's been a long, hard day navigating between the portfolio committees and webinars, and now another meeting, continuing on the side. But it's the nature of our work. As we indicated, that we would really appreciate that the chats should continue, the questions should continue being sent. We'll ensure that we respond to all the questions. The panel members will continue responding to the questions as well as to your chats. And please send us those ideas and solutions, not complaints. We want solutions. We want to our economy of KZN to recover. Come Monday next week, we want all hands on the deck. Indeed, we want to ensure that our ICT plays an important role of solving some of the challenges that we are having within our environment. There's a lot of problems that we are encountering, but as we can see how the utilization of the ICT has ensured that we save on traveling costs, and we save on a lot of office space and other things that would have been spent on the S&T. And those monies could then be channeled to other areas of our economy that could stimulate our economy and our innovation in our province. And that's what we would like to see happening. And we indicated as well that it's not about us throwing money into the problem, but it's about investing wisely. It's about investing smartly, where we can get maximum returns, where we can be able to maximize our returns, as opposed to investing where we believe that it will serve a particular individual, but we would like to invest where we believe that this is where the economic drive is going to. Yesterday, I did share that one of the papers from the World Economic Forum already indicates what are some of the jobs that companies are already hiring people on. And that's the kind of things that we want to see happening in these webinars. We want to see scientific driven solutions that must come out of those discussions. We want to see the leadership emerging from those discussions that will take our province to the next level. We want to see innovation. We want to see those markets being opened. And our role will be going around knocking at each and every one of those doors. And I think we are very lucky as a province that the business community that we have, particularly the big business that we have very progressive, a lot of progressive business people, I must say. We have those, of course, that are still needing some panel beating and some discussions, but we do have a lot of other very progressive ones that are open to suggestion and discussions that are going out of their way in support of the work that we are doing. And we need then to work together in ensuring that all of us indeed ensure that this opportunity that is provided by COVID-19 in our province is utilized to say this province must then be known as the best province that saw an opportunity and utilize the space by being a smart province, by being an innovative province, by being a province that unleashed the leadership of young people, the innovators that came with solutions, the solutions that were able to assist us to leapfrog from where we are, and were able to realize and to be recognized around the world by the best innovations that we came up with, not regurgitating, not the cutting and pasting of things that we've seen and failed. So really, that's our appeal. That's our plea to everybody in this platform. So it's not the end of the discussion. The discussion must continue. We must all really work together in ensuring that this discussion continue. But we can't talk forever. We need to get to work, and we need this economy to be revived. And thank you once more to all of you for all your good work and for agreeing to participate, to the core conveners of this sector. Thank you very much to all of you, and to our facilitator, Neville, and our secretariat, Figiswa, and the team on the background, all of you, and the Kabazela there on the background, and our ICT teams. Thank you very much to all of you who've worked hard the whole day, making sure that we are up here and on the Facebook and all the social media platforms, and everybody who's been listening to us the whole day. Thank you very much. Let's meet again and discuss and come up with solutions. Thank you so much. Everything of the best. Keep safe and stay at home.
Thank you very much, MEC. We take the marching orders, and we'll do our best not to disappoint.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.